lights flicker like hungover flies. Gifts drift like ghosts across the steel sunrise. I'm tracing a circle on a worn piece of vellum, trying to find the right words, trying to tell them. To the woman walking barefoot on the floor plate cold, with hair like a storm made of all burning gold. You hand me the calf, say I woke up the dead. There's a hum like a generator stuck in your head. You sit opposite me, one knee tucked in tight, reading my face in the gray morning light. You say, is it the floor, is the structure unsound, or are you just feeling feelings that you haven't found? But I'm not leaving, I'm not letting go. This isn't an exit, I want you to know. If I were running, I'd be prepared for a scare, looking like I was about to go fight a bear. But I'm quiet, I'm steady, I'm making my stand. I wanna tie threads, I wanna take your hand. Not for the spectacle, not for the view, but because the gravity I choose is you. The city is screaming, the ducted fans roar, but there's no sound at all inside of our door. Just the charcoal circle, continuous and true, and the terrified hope in the eyes of you. You ask if it's public, if we're binding it tight in front of the guilds and the neon light. Yes, I say, because logic dictates my life is just better when we link our fates. I cross the small space, climb into your lap, closing the distance, closing the gap. My hands frame your jaw, the doubt disappears. A lifetime of locked doors, easing past fears. You breathe out a yes, and the maintenance ends. No broken things left, just the time that we spend. So how do we tell them? How do we say we're ruining plans for the solstice day? We'd better tell Sai before she takes offense and puts glitter cannons in the heating vents. Let the skyport roar, I don't need the noise anymore. I have my gravity.
The Gravity We Choose, Part 1, The Decision, by Grace Eon. From Tales of Neo-X, The Gravity We Choose, Merrin and Tamsin want one thing, a quiet, heartfelt hand-fasting. Neo-Extropia hears that and immediately says, absolutely not. From the Crimson Alcove to Club Argent, the Solstice wedding prep becomes a whirlwind of friends, mischief, vows, and glitter cannons. Life is simple. Planning in this city? Never. Merrin and Tamsin had carved a life together in Skyport Berry the way most people carved out shelter on a cliff face. Deliberately, stubbornly, with a tenderness that surprised anyone who knew their reputations. Merrin, all quiet precision and old-world gravity, ran numbers and patterns for half the city's logistics guilds. Tamsin Vale, Vivian Ravenwood's notoriously unflappable maintenance director, moved through life like a storm disguised as a woman, equal parts brawler, engineer, and crisis whisperer. They fit together the way unlikely things sometimes do. Perfectly, inexplicably, and inevitably. Skyport Berry never did mornings gently. Even at first light, the place crackled, cargo skiffs drifting between towers, ducted fans thrumming under metal walkways, hollow ads flickering awake like hungover fireflies. Merrin liked the noise. It made her feel steady, predictable. Tamsin, however, treated Dawn like it owed her money. She padded barefoot across their tiny apartment's floor plate, hair a cascade of soft golds, oversized, sleep shirt hanging off one shoulder. She carried 2 mugs of caf like they were sacramental objects. Marin looked up from the worn piece of vellum she'd been tracing circles on for the last half hour. "You're up early." Tamsin snorted. "You were up early. Something was thrumming in your head hard enough to wake the dead." Marin closed her mouth, opened it, closed it, tried again. "It's us," she said quietly. Tamsin blinked once, twice. Then her shoulders softened in a way Marin always privately adored. "You're not breaking up with me," Tamsin said. "Your posture is too noble. If you were trying to dump me, you'd look like you were about ready to fight a bear." Marin rubbed her thumb over the vellum. It was nothing more than a ring of charcoal, a circle, continuous, steady. "I want to hand fast at solstice," she said. No neon hum, no cargo skiff, no sound at all. Just that sentence hanging in the air, fragile but solid as a forged link. Tamsin's eyes widened, and every nervous spark in her seemed to flare at once. Hope, fear, love so fierce it made her tremble. "You want to tie threads with me?" she whispered. "Publicly? Binding openly? In front of people we actually know?" "Yes." Marin didn't waver. She rarely did. Not for tradition, not for spectacle. Because it's the shape my devotion has taken, and because my life is better when you're threaded into every part of it. Tamsin stared at her like someone who had never once been chosen first and didn't know how to hold the moment. Marin set her mug aside, crossed the small space between them, and climbed into Tamsin's lap. Slow, certain, self-assured in a way that made Tamsin's breath catch. Her knees bracketed Tamsin's hips. Her hands framed Tamsin's jaw with quiet conviction. "Yes," Tamsin breathed. No hesitation, no wavering. "Yes, I'll bind myself to you. Of course I will." Marin let out a slow breath that sounded like release, like relief, like a lifetime of locked doors easing open. Tamsin kissed her, messy, delighted, relieved, reverent. And when she pulled back, her grin was wicked. "So," she said, thumb brushing Marin's cheekbone, "how do you want to tell everyone we're about to ruin their solstice plans?" Marin's answering smile was small and devastating. "I think we should start with Leo and then Sidonia. Because if we don't tell Sidonia properly, she'll claim we slighted her and put glitter cannons in our ventilation." Tamsin groaned into her shoulder. "We are absolutely telling Cy first." Skyport Ferry roared awake around them, but in that little apartment, the gravity shifted, gentler, stronger, chosen. The Gravity We Choose, Part 2. Sidonia has entered the chat. Club Argent wasn't technically open at this hour, but that never mattered. The door recognized Tamsin's biometrics, Marin's gate signature, and, more importantly, their mutual "Cy is expecting trouble" energy. The vestibule lights shifted from idle amber to an electric violet swirl. That was the first warning. The second was the bass pulse that kicked on from nowhere, like the club itself had leaned over to whisper, Brace yourselves. Sidonia Wren descended the main staircase in a slow-motion glide that absolutely defied physics and entirely matched her sense of personal theater. Her lavender hair fell in perfect, impossible waves. Her violet optics adjusted to them with unnerving precision. You too, she said, stopping halfway down, hands on hips in a posture that suggested she already had invented 16 conclusions. You're either here to confess a crime, request a blessing, or ask for money. Tamsin swallowed. Marin elbowed her. Neither spoke. Sidonia narrowed her eyes, sharp as a blade made of starlight and judgment. You're not pregnant, are you? Sigh, Tamsin sputtered. What? No, why would... Darling, you have exactly the posture of someone about to tell me something that will either warm my heart or ruin my week. I'd like to prepare. Marin stepped forward, steady as ever. We're hand fasting, she said calmly, at solstice. Silence. Then Sidonia's entire face ignited. Pure joy, pure chaos, pure sigh. She gasped, one hand to her chest, the other flung behind her like she was summoning the unseen backup singers. Oh, oh, my beloved little disasters. You're binding threads with each other, publicly, in front of people we both like and tolerate? Tamsin muttered, yes. Sidonia hit the bottom step in 4 impossible strides, seized both of them by the forearms, and vibrated with excitement, like a reactor slipping its containment. You poor, naive creatures. You didn't come here to announce a life milestone. You came here to deliver unto me, she practically purred, the opportunity of a lifetime. Marin blinked. We're just telling no. Sidonia lifted a finger, silencing the universe itself. You are getting handfasted at solstice. Therefore, obviously, the ceremony will be held at Club Argent. Tamsin made a small strangled sound. We never said you didn't need to, Sidonia said briskly. I'm an empathic professional. I can sense a major life event begging for my involvement from 6 districts away. We weren't. It's adorable you think you have input. Sidonia clasped their intertwined hands, lifted them overhead like victorious gladiators, and announced to the empty club, These 2 are tying threads, and the solstice belongs to them. Lights flared overhead. Then was 78% sure that Argent was sentient. Marin leaned close. We're not in control anymore, Tamsin whispered back. We never were. Sidonia was already marching toward the main stage, issuing commands to invisible staff, possibly rewriting the fire codes in real time. Come along, my beloved chaos sprites. We have 1 month to build an event that obeys no natural laws and several social ones. Marin sighed. Tamsin laughed helplessly. And just like that, the solstice handfasting was no longer an announcement. It was a takeover. A glitter-drenched, neon-charged Sidonia Wren production. The Gravity We Choose, Part 3, Vivian Ravenwood Takes Measure. The Ravenwood did not sleep, not really. Its walls kept their own pulse, subtle as a held breath. Vivian felt it through her boots as she crossed the mezzanine, data pad tucked under one arm, a cup of saffron tea in hand. Nights were long these days. Expansion always meant late hours and endless decisions. Eidolon walked half a step behind her, soundless, the sense presence, a line of calm vigilance. She carried nothing. She didn't need to. Her sensors were already sweeping the hall, the balcony, the elevators, the air pressure of every sealed door. Vivian was halfway through reviewing cargo manifests when her comm pinged with a short message from Leo. They told Sai, you'll want to know. No elaboration. Leo rarely wasted words. Vivian exhaled, slow, and already knowing. Tamsin Vale, Marin, a hand fasting, on solstice. She set the data pad aside and turned toward the balcony window. The city spread out below, skiffs drifting like sparks, pylons glowing, Club Argent's neon signature pulsing faintly under morning haze. Tamsin Vale had been hers from the beginning, a maintenance director with precision in her hands and chaos in her wake. Loyal, sharp, grounded in a way Vivian trusted even when she trusted almost no one. Marin was newer to the city's orbit, but Vivian had seen the way she moved through space thoughtfully, like someone who understood the value of structural integrity in people. She approved, quietly, internally, as was her way. The doors behind her slid open. Eidolon shifted subtly, weight distribution, line of sight, protective posture, but she didn't move from where she stood. I thought you'd still be in the machine room, Vivian said without turning. Tamsin stepped inside, boots in one hand, a little too red in the face for someone who claimed she didn't get flustered. Marin followed, composed, steady, but not immune to the bright spark in her eyes. They stood as if caught doing something they weren't sure they'd be punished for or congratulated for. Vivian finally faced them. Well, she said, tea cooling in her hand, I assume you're here because Sidonia is already rearranging half her club and threatened to kidnap you both if you didn't tell me directly. Tamsin groaned. Marin tried not to smile. Vivian continued, voice dry as starlight on steel. Congratulations would be the traditional thing to offer, I believe. Tamsin blinked. You're okay with it? Vivian raised one brow. You have managed not to blow up any essential infrastructure in nearly 9 months. That alone proves you're ready for long-term commitment. Tamsin sputtered. Marin gently squeezed her arm, calming, grounding. Then she stepped forward. We wanted your blessing, Marin said simply. Not for tradition, just because Skyport Berry is part of what made us possible. Vivian studied her for one long, quiet beat. Marin did not flinch. She rarely did. Eidolon's optics warmed by a fraction, her equivalent of interest. Then take it, Vivian said, and take this as well. If you host the ceremony at Argent, and sure Sidonia runs her plans past me, I won't have glitter mortar misfire collapsing a walkway. Tamsin muttered something about glitter being a biological hazard. Vivian ignored it. And Marin, she added, tone softening a mere fraction. Whatever shape your bond takes, make sure it is chosen daily, intentionally. That is the only kind of vow with weight. Marin bowed her head in acknowledgement. Tamsin stepped forward impulsively, fierce, warm, reckless. She wrapped Vivian in a hug before Marin could stop her. Vivian froze. Eidolon's posture changed. Half a shift toward intervention. until Vivian lifted one hand slightly, a signal only Eidolon would read. Stand down. Then Vivian sighed, returning the embrace with a brief, firm squeeze. You both have work in the morning, she said, stepping back and reclaiming her poise. Do not let love turn you foolish. We won't, Marin said. No promises, Tamsin added. Vivian waved them off with a flick of her fingers. Get out before Sidonia storms in here with fabric samples. As the door slid shut behind them, Vivian turned back to the balcony. Eidolon resumed her steady, silent post by the window, watchful, patient, the quiet ghost in Vivian's shadow. Below, Neo-Extropia shimmered, expanding, changing, alive. Vivian sipped her tea, allowed herself one unguarded smile, and whispered to the empty air. Good. Let something in this city be built on joy for once. And Skyport Berry hummed its agreement. The Gravity We Choose, Part 4. Neon for one, velvet for the other. Tamsin's Night, Club Argent, her own bachelorette chaos, hosted by Sidonia. Sidonia had declared loudly, firmly, and with glitter already in hand, that Tamsin Vale, quote, deserved a night of structural debauchery, end quote. No one knew what that meant. Tamsin feared she would find out. Club Argent blazed even brighter than usual, neon tubing spiraling across the ceiling like ecstatic handwriting. The dance floor pulsed in complex patterns that the club's AI claimed were mathematically optimized seduction waves. Tamsin suspected Sidonia wrote that line herself. Tamsin arrived to find Leo holding a tray of drinks like she'd been threatened, half the maintenance crew already tipsy, a banner reading, Vows are sexy. Tamsin rubbed her face. This is going to hurt tomorrow. Sidonia descended upon her like a lavender-haired comet. There she is, my favorite disaster. Come here and let Auntie Cy kiss your face and emotionally compromise you. Tamsin was scooped up into a hug before she could dodge. I don't need a party, Tamsin protested into Sidonia's shoulder. You need many parties, Sidonia countered. You just don't know you need them until you're in the middle of one, screaming, Cy, this is too much. That sounds accurate, Leo muttered, passing Tamsin a drink. The night blurred into a beautiful catastrophe. Pole dancers in holographic light. Tamsin pulled on stage against her will. A choreographed maintenance crew dance routine that included wrenches, a toast that involved Sidonia declaring, if she ever hurts Marin, I will personally throw her into the ventilation ducts. Oh, sigh, Tamsin groaned. What? Authentically spoken vows require accountability. By the end of it, Tamsin was barefoot, tipsy, laughing, and insisting she could absolutely rewire the club's lower hollow grid in her current state. Leo physically prevented her. Sidonia filmed it all. And for the first time in a long time, Tamsin let herself be celebrated instead of needed. Marin's night at the Crimson Alcove, her separate bachelorette night, curated by the red-headed menace herself, O'Malley Dakota. Marin's event was supposed to be quiet. She should have known better when the venue was the Crimson Alcove. O'Malley, flame-haired and smiling like she already knew the ending, greeted her at the door with a wicked smile she refused to explain. Congratulations, my sweet structural romantic, she purred. We're doing this my way. Marin stepped inside and stopped. The alcove had transformed. Soft crimson light that skimmed across skin like a fingertip. Clouds of scented vapor drifting through the air with the warmth of a shared exile. Private booths curtained in shimmering fabric that swayed just enough to hint at bodies behind them. Curated playlist that did not just melt steel beams, it coaxed hips, loosened breath, set a rhythm under the sternum. O'Malley circled her, slow and appreciative, her red hair catching the light like a slow-moving flame. Tonight is not about chaos, she said. That is Tamsin's curse. Tonight is about indulgence, being adored, letting people spoil you without asking what you need. I'm not usually, yes, I know, Mally cut in, her fingertip trailing lightly along Marin's sleeve. That is why we are doing it. She snapped her fingers. Dancers slipped from the shadows like heat blooming from a spark, fluid, intentional. Their movements were not just elegant, they were invitations. One brushed past Marin closely enough that she felt the warmth of their torso across her arm before she even registered the motion. You planned all this? She asked, voice smaller than she expected. My dear, I curate experiences. You deserve softness. Marin let herself be guided to a velvet couch low enough to draw her into a recline. The fabric cradled her, plush as a sigh. Someone placed a drink in her hand, their fingers lingering on hers longer than necessary. Another offered fruit from a small dish, raising it to her lips with a faint, teasing smile. Blessings were whispered close to her ear, not reverent, but intimate, barely breath kisses of sound. O'Malley settled beside her, one leg pressed along Marin's thigh, perfume soft and complex. Her proximity alone felt like an invitation. She did not speak. She did not need to. Her hand slid from Marin's shoulder down to her hip, resting there with quiet certainty, heat seeping through the fabric. The dancers moved closer. One knelt at Marin's feet, hands warm around her ankles, stroking upward along her calves in slow, coaxing lines that unraveled the last of her guarded poise. Another eased behind the couch and let her fingers slip into her hair, gathering it gently, thumb grazing the nape of her neck, a touch that sent a quiet shiver down her spine. A third traced slow, looping gestures over her arms and ribs, never quite touching, letting the anticipation itself do the work. Marin let her shoulders ease, let breath spill out in a tremor she did not bother to hide. Let the alcove show her what it felt like to be wanted without being needed. Soft laughter and low conversation floated through the velvet haze. The music curled around her like a body. A dancer leaned down, pressed a kiss of warm breath just below her ear, and whispered a blessing meant only for her. Something about steady love and chosen desire and being held without condition. O'Malley leaned in even closer, her breath skimming Marin's cheek. Her thigh pressed flush against Marin's from knee to hip, a slow, deliberate anchor. Her fingertips traced languid circles at the base of Marin's neck, guiding her posture open, inviting her to lean back and be seen. Let it, she murmured. You hold the city together, Marin. Let someone hold you. Marin did, for once. The Gravity We Choose, Part 5. Preparations begin and immediately spiral. Solstice was 15 days away, which in most cities meant there may still be time. In Skyport Berry, it meant the clock was screaming. 1. Vivian starts the machine turning. Vivian Ravenwood had never been a woman who needed to enter a room to dominate it. She simply shifted gravity, and rooms obeyed. She sat at the central table in her mezzanine office, a projection of Argent's floor plan hovering above the surface like a living schematic. Eidolon stood behind her, perfectly still, lit from below by soft cyan underlights. She tracked each adjustment Vivian made with absolute attention, every gesture a calculation. You're redesigning the whole club, Leo observed from the doorway. Vivian did not look up. Cydonia offered the venue before thinking. I am preventing carnage. Eidolon tilted her head, voice quiet. Structural integrity projections indicate a 7% chance of collapse if Cydonia introduces unvetted equipment. Exactly. Vivian flicked a finger, and a seating plan unfurled like a star chart. Run a cross-check on load-bearing thresholds for temporary staging. Color code anything Leo will complain about. Leo muttered, "That'll be all of it I'll complain about." Vivian continued, unbothered. "Bring Tamsin Vale here. She needs to be involved." "She's hung over," Leo pointed out. Vivian raised one brow. "I didn't ask for her best. I asked for her presence." Eidolon remained exactly where she was, silent, but the air shimmered faintly as she pushed the request through internal channels. Within seconds, Tamsin's location pinged across the projection. Vivian turned back to the display. A handfasting, a real one, in her city, under her watch. A small warmth gathered in her chest, restrained yet unmistakable. "Let's build something worthy," she muttered. 2. Tamsin tries to pretend that she is not dying. Tamsin Vale opened the apartment door in a groan and a hoodie. Eidolon's voice, gentle, toneless, came through the comm speaker next to the frame. "Director Ravenwood requires your presence." Tamsin winced. "Can she require it quieter?" "No." Marin's head appeared behind her, braids still loose from sleep. "I'll bring her in 10 minutes. 5," Eidolon corrected over the comm. "Vivian's patience decays exponentially." 10 minutes later, Tamsin stood in Vivian's office, clutching a bottle of water and sitting far too straight on a couch that she normally sprawled across. Vivian regarded her like one might inspect a broken drone. "You look like you lost a fight with gravity." "I did," Tamsin whispered. "Cydonia threw it at me." "Well, you will recover," Vivian tapped the projection. "We have wedding preparations to coordinate." Tamsin's head fell back with a soft thud. "Cy could have asked me." "She did not. She assumed. Then I stepped in to protect the infrastructure." "And you." Tamsin blinked. "Me?" Tamsin sighed, only slightly. "Tamsin, you deserve a ceremony that reflects love, not chaos. Please attempt to rise to the occasion." It landed in Tamsin's ribs like a blessing disguised as an insult. "Yes, ma'am." Behind them, Marin arrived, quiet, grounded, carrying 2 extra water bottles because she anticipated this exact disaster. Vivian nodded at her. "Thank you for your continued competence, Marin," she said. Tamsin mouthed to Marin. "Rude." Marin mouthed back. "Accurate." 3. Cydonia enters like a solstice storm. The mezzanine door slammed open. "I heard someone is editing my floor plan without my consent." Sidonia Wren swept in wearing a coat that had no business existing indoors, dramatic enough to have its own gravitational field. Vivian didn't look up. Your floor plan is a menace. It is art. It is combustible. It is fashion. It is a hazard. Sidonia threw herself into a chair, crossed her legs, and pointed at Marin. You, bride-to-be, I have been reviewing fabric samples for 24 hours consecutively, and I need you to confirm you are not allergic to reactive shimmer thread. Marin blinked. Would I know if I was? Good, then we're using it. Vivian pinched the bridge of her nose. No shimmer thread. We do not need spontaneous, mood-activated color changes. But joy should be seen, Sidonia argued. It will be, Marin said softly. We don't need the room flashing like a hazard beacon. Sidonia paused, then nodded. Fine. You get neutral light reactive gradients. I'll redirect the shimmer budget to the after party. Absolutely not. Vivian's tone did not budge. Watch me. Marin squeezed Tamsin's hand under the table so she wouldn't laugh outright. Eidolon stood behind Vivian as usual, silent, steady, a pillar carved out of intention. Then she spoke. Director Ravenwood. Vivian didn't look up from the seating schematic. Yes? A new dress will be required for me. Vivian blinked slowly. You don't wear dresses. Correct. I wear garments. But the garment I currently possess is classified as day wear. Sidonia informed me this would constitute a social error. Vivian pressed her fingers to her temple. What exactly did she tell you? She said, quote, Baby, you cannot show up to a wedding dressed like an accountant's screensaver? End quote. Vivian inhaled through her nose. Eidolon, do you want a dress? Eidolon processed this. Desire is irrelevant. Appropriateness is optimal. Also, the screensaver comment was statistically insulting. Vivian fought down a laugh. We'll arrange something. 4. The crimson alcove adds itself to the equation. The comp chimed. O'Malley's voice poured out, smooth, velvet, vaguely threatening. Darlings, I hear you're planning logistics without me. Tragic. I'm sending over a list of items the alcove will be providing. Vivian's eye twitched. We did not ask. You didn't need to. This is what friends do. Also, I will be vetting the guest list for anyone with a history of X-drama, structural sabotage, or being boring. Marin covered her mouth to hide a smile. Tamsin croaked. Please don't let her interrogate the guest. Too late! The channel clicked off. Vivian closed her eyes briefly. Fine. We divide roles. I handle structural safety and ceremony flow. Sidonia handles aesthetics. O'Malley handles, I guess, people. You mean chaos, Leo muttered behind her. Same thing, Vivian said. 5. A wedding begins to take shape. The projection shifted, club argent rendered in soft golds, aisles marked, seating arranged, lighting plotted to shift subtly as the vows progressed. Tamsin stared at it with a stunned sort of awe. "That's beautiful," she whispered. Vivian allowed herself one small, proud breath. "Of course it is." Marin's hand slid into Tamsin's. She leaned close, voice warm. "We're actually doing this." Tamsin exhaled a slow, trembling thing and leaned her head briefly against Marin's shoulder. Vivian pretended not to notice. Eidolon didn't pretend. She tilted her head, studying the pair with quiet curiosity, like witnessing a new behavioral pattern she found unexpectedly pleasing. "Preparations will proceed efficiently," Eidolon said softly. "I will ensure nothing endangers this union." Tamsin smiled weakly. "That's ominous." "No," Vivian corrected. "That's reassurance." Skyport Berry hummed outside, a city shifting, preparing. Solstice was coming, and everything was gathering toward it. A ceremony, a union, a chosen gravity. Something the city could anchor itself to, if only for one shining night.